Hi Tin, I heard you were a little confused after playing Frozen King.
Right.
Okay, then let's have a chat and see if we can straighten things out.
Great.
Frozen King is a contest between the polar bear and the penguin. Because of climate change, the ice field is shrinking, pushing them closer together. They are both competing for the remaining space in polar regions. Now, their goal is to win a gem crown. How do we play the game? First, we have to pick a character. Ting, who would you like to be?
I want to be the polar bear.
Okay, that makes me the penguin. So, a quick overview first. This is the crown. This is a floating ice cube, and this is a deflecting slope. When a floating ice cube and a deflecting slope are combined, it forms an iceberg. Got it? Okay, good. Let's go on. We start by deciding where to put the crown. The crown must be within the central 4x4 set of squares, this wide area. The other two transparent ice cubes can be anywhere. We will continue the initial setup in a minute, but for now, let's look at the player's action choices. Starting from these four corners, you can move in any direction. For example, you can walk from here to land, but you will stop when you hit an obstacle like this. You can go in any direction and go to land like this, but you can't say, I'm going to stay next to the crown and stop here. That's not allowed. You must go to the end. So, this is the first way to move. The second way is to choose a floating ice cube or deflecting slope cube from somewhere on the map. For example, if I want to end up here, I have to position a floating ice cube here first, then I can move closer to the crown. This is placing a floating ice cube. Now, if you want to put down a deflecting slope, it must be connected to one of the floating ice cubes. You can put it together like this. What do the deflecting slopes do? When a character is moving like this, the moving character will be deflected to the lower side of the slope. This is placing an ice cube. Let's look at the third action choice, which is push or turn. What does push mean? We can push a floating ice cube on grid space. Then our own row will also move one step forward at the same time. Move another square along like this, and now I'm close to the crown. Here, I will win the next step. This is called pushing. Only one floating ice cube can be pushed each turn. Or you can push your opponent's character like this. I can push your polar bear back one step. What does turn mean? This is a cross of 4 squares around my character, in front and behind, to the left and the right. If there's an iceberg, like here, the floating ice cube can be used as the axis. To turn our iceberg, the floating ice must be the axis. In some special situation like this, there are icebergs around me, so they can be turned. The rule that limits turning said that the iceberg must not overlap with any obstacle after turning. For example, if we have an obstacle here, I can't turn it because it is not adjacent me. But if I'm here, I can. Although they are obstacles, they can rotate without overlapping with any obstacle after turning. I can't turn it around if it's like this. This is how we use push and turn. Next, there's a fourth way, which is when you don't have any floating ice cube or deflecting slope. Assuming all the ice cubes are already in play, and I don't have any left, these are yours. I can choose to take back a floating ice cube, but only the one farthest from the crown. Which is the farthest away? We count the number of squares, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This one is 6 squares away. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's 7. This is also 7 grids. These two are equally far away, so in this case, you can choose one to reclaim. Taking an ice cube back counts as an action. So these are the 4 actions a player can take: moving, placing, pushing, or turning ice cubes. The last is taking back, so there are 4 actions in total. You can choose. The goal is to be the first character to reach the gem crown. Now, there are some other movement restrictions. We can block the opponent's path to the crown. For example, if you start here, suppose our ice cubes are positioned like this. I can't just block your way. You're not allowed to put ice cubes in these 2 positions. Otherwise, there's no way to get to the crown. But we can push the crown, so if we block each other because we can push, it just leads to the deadlock. So we should try and avoid this situation. Well, it's not so much try it to avoid this situation. It's don't allow this situation to happen. So if you go like this, you can't get the crown. It's okay if you have a path because you can think of ways to make a way for yourself to get to the end and then collect the crown. So this is the first restriction. We cannot block each other's path. The second is that we cannot undo the other player's last action. What does this mean? For example, if we are in this situation, then I push you, you can't just push back right away. After I push you, you can place an ice cube in place first. I also place an ice cube. Then you can push back again. You only need to have one move in between moves to affect the other player's previous step, but you can immediately undo it. What else is there? Here's an example. I just put an ice cube. That happens to be the furthest away from the end. You can't take it back right away because it undoes my last action. So there are some limitations. Like this iceberg, if I turn it, you can't turn it back immediately. That would be undoing my last move. So remember these things, and let's start a quick game. We begin with each person taking 4 floating ice cubes and 2 deflecting slopes. Do you want to go first or second?
Can I decide the order by myself?
As an informal rule, we'll say that the person the most recently played with building blocks goes first, because this is a board game with blocks. Have you played with building blocks recently?
Yes, just now.
Okay, then you go first. If you go first, you place these 3 randomly.
Which 3?
Our end with 2 floating ice cubes. But you don't place them, you drop them, so that they fall randomly. Okay, now you move them to the center of the square that they landed in or closest to. Because I'm going second, I get to decide the starting position of the 2 characters. This is limited to the 4 corners. Here, I'm a little closer to the ground, you're a little farther away. So now you can start moving.
Can I put the iceberg on the crown?
No, the deflecting slope must be combined a floating ice cube. The crown is not a floating ice cube.
Can I move diagonally like this?
Movement has to be in the 4 basic directions: front, back, left, or right. When turning the iceberg must be the center of rotation, which means your character must be in one of the 4 adjacent squares. So you can't turn the iceberg from where you are now. I'm almost at the end. So you should.
Stop you.
Yeah.
Am I blocking your way?
No, because I can move from here, but I can still make a detour. Forcing the opponent to deter is an important strategy in this game. That way, I can push the ice cube again.
Can I only push 1 square or can I push it 2 squares?
Only 1. Also, you can only push the ice cubes around you. Pushing the ice cubes that surround you in the 4 directions.
So I can't push unless I am next to it.
Correct. You cannot. So what I just pushed were the ice cubes next to me. When pushing, you can only push square and in a straight line. I can't say. If the situation is better like this, I can push it 1 grid to the left. That's not allowed. It must be a straight line. If the iceberg was 2 cubes, it cannot be pushed. We can only push a floating ice cube or a character.
Is there no way I can stop you?
Do you have any floating ice cubes?
No more.
Then it looks like there's no way to stop me. It's okay. Let's play another round. Yes, let's try again. Everyone takes 4 floating ice cubes and 2 deflecting slope. This time, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go second this time.
Okay, let me decide. This one for you. This one is outside the ice field, so we've got to throw it again. Okay, that's it. Floating ice cube can be outside the central set of 4x4 squares. It can also be at the starting point because it doesn't block the 4 starting points, because there are only 2. Okay, now you get to choose our starting positions.
Can there be 2 deflecting slopes on the same ice cube?
Yes, look here. I can win by deflecting my character to the ground. You have to check the path of the deflecting slope, like this one. It bounces off the slope here, so that I will win. You should stop me here. When the deflecting slope cannot reflect, they act as an obstacle. You can think of it as a kind of floating ice cube, because it stops the character at the previous grid, but it doesn't deflect.
If there are 2 ice cubes in front of me, can I push them together?
No, you can only push one at a time.
What should I do if there are 2 ice cubes?
Then you must make a detour. Push 1 square.
Then you win?
I still have to make 1 more move to win. But it's almost equal to winning. You can't reach the end in 1 step from there. Actually, in this type of situation, it's hard for you to win. I'm in this position. If you just walk over, you can reach the end in 1 step, and that forces me to stop you first. But if I get to this position, no matter if I go this way or this way, I will be very close to winning. So I almost won when I'm in this position. The safest way is to avoid me being so close to the ground. For example, bounce me away over to here, or add a floating ice cube directly here. Like we discussed before, can the iceberg combine with deflecting slope? Yes, it can. An iceberg can combine multiple deflecting slopes, but our deflecting slope can only be combined with a floating ice cube. It cannot be combined with a deflecting slope, although they can physically be combined. This is not allowed under the game rules. The deflecting slope can only be attached to a floating ice cube. It doesn't matter if the direction is left or right. Of course, we can't fly upwards or diagonally. This is not allowed. Or if we attempt to reverse it, that is not allowed either. You could combine multiple sides like this. It rotates the same way. But if we want to rotate it, it won't work if it is blocked by an obstacle. If it is this kind of corner space, it can turn. So this is the general strategy basis of the game. You see, there are some in-depth strategic aspects. Alright, thank you again for joining me today. See you soon!